Hi everyone. This is just a quick video kind of just walking you through the ExpertTA homework interface, though it's pretty easy to navigate, but it's sometimes helpful just to see an example. So again, if you have not signed up for it, you can find the announcement where I gave the link, or in the modules under course information, this link here would allow you to register for our course. You only do that once. And everything else is done through the ExpertTA homework site, which you can access here in the module, or I put in the course navigation as well. I'll ask, and it's just theexpertta.com. Once your account is made, you will log in and do that. And then once you're logged in, you will be taken, not to this page, you will be taken to a page that looks something like this. You will see significantly less than this because you're seeing essentially all my previous versions of these assignments. But you should see something like a tutorial using ExpertTA, and you should see homework 1. And I believe you should see essentially things along the lines of when the assignment starts, which is when you can actually start trying it. And that will probably just be the Wednesday. If homework 1 is due next Wednesday, homework 2 will become available next Wednesday. Then when it is due, which will be due before the start of class on Wednesday. And then the end is if you submit the homework late, this is essentially the last time you can submit it late and have any hope to get points. I think I have it set up that it takes off something like maybe it's 2% an hour, or maybe it's 1% an hour. So late is better than never. And just turning it in late means that your just maximum possible score just slowly decreases. So that if you, for example, your max possible score drops down to 80, if you answer every single question right, you will only get 80% in that case. So what you do is everything you do for this homework is done here on ExpertTA with some few exceptions. Homework 1 actually has one of these exceptions, where you might have to submit something on Canvas as well. But what you do is when you click on homework 1, you will see much less than this, but you should see some sort of take assignment somewhere amongst it all. When you click take the assignment, it will ask you to abide by the honor code for St. Mary's as well as ExpertTA, agree and continue, and you'll be taken to the homework page. So you can leave and come back as many times as you want. Like I can leave the assignment right now just by going to class management. I've left the assignment. All my work was saved. If I had done any work, and I can go back, take the assignment, and it drops me off right where I left off. So even after the assignments are due, you can go back into the assignment and look at what you did. And I believe I have it set so that you can see the solutions essentially once that late grace period ends, so like 4 or so days after the homework is due, everyone should be able to access all the solutions even if they did not do the assignment. So the interface is kind of pretty general in that here on the left, it will show you that there are, in this case, 11 problems. There's actually going to be 12. And some of these have multiple parts. Some of these only have one part. Fortunately, last year, there was a way for you could actually see which ones had parts and which ones did not. It seems like they've updated this interface, not necessarily for the better. You can do problems out of order. You do not have to do things in order. I can just click the numbers and it will jump me around. And when there are multiple parts, so for example, problem 2, this is a problem that only has one part. So you can see it just says problem 2, then it has some sort of prompt. This is a question that was written as part of ExpertTA. And so the way scientists know the hypothesis in astronomy is a reasonable description of nature is to, and then in this case, it is multiple choice. So then you can decide what you want to do. Maybe I think the answer is to look it up on Wikipedia. If I think that's what my answer is going to be, I then hit submit. It immediately tells me it is incorrect. So the nice thing about this is I can get another shot. I can get multiple shots in this case. For multiple choice, it makes sense that you don't have infinite, attempts. Essentially, you're allowed 4 attempts. So in this case, if you look over here, notice that I got it wrong, but I still have more opportunities of chance. So you can see I have attempts remaining 3. I have 3 more chances to try to answer this question correctly. But every time I get it wrong, I lose 25%. So that means if I answer the question right on my second try, I still get 75% of the points, as compared to, again, if you were to turn this into me, I would then have to essentially grade it all or nothing. Here, you get the opportunity to try again and get a good chunk of the points back as a result. Sometimes the problems have feedback. So, if this button lights up, not all, it doesn't light up all the time. Especially it doesn't light up until you've submitted something. And even then it doesn't always light up. But in this case, I answered it wrong the first try, and this button became available, which means that there's feedback that I can access. So if I click it, it says because Wikipedia can be edited by almost anyone. Okay, so it gives me a reason why that question was wrong, or why that response was wrong. I think feedback should be encouraged and celebrated, so I do not take off anything for accessing the feedback. You can set it up so apparently if you access the feedback, you lose points, which seems dumb to me. Sometimes there are also, though, hints. Hints do come with a little bit of a cost. It's not a huge cost, so if you are completely lost, go on, use that hint, because it's going to help you get most of the points anyway. So in this case, if I wanted to use a hint, I would click it. Hints remaining 0. There is a hint that it gives me. And then notice that my potential score dropped down by the 10% deduction. So instead of possible 75%, now I only can get up to 65%, assuming I answer it correctly this time. So let's see, scientists know the way, so they do experiments, blah, blah, blah. So suppose I try again, submit. Aha, it says correct. Which I can go to the next question, or I can stay. Let me stay. Once you get a question correct, or you give up or run out of tries, it will give you kind of a summary of what's going on here. So it'll tell you kind of all your possible, all your attempts, all your submission history, the score you ultimately got, deductions, all that sort of thing, as well as what the correct answer was. So, and over here now notice that number 2, it says complete. So again, if I leave the assignment, go eat dinner or something, and then come back, take assignment, go back in, notice that 2 is still complete. I don't have to start over again. And if I leave it and come back, I can still access all the feedback, little green check. And then for the problems that have multiple parts, so let's find an easier one that has multiple parts. These all have 1. That's good. Okay, so this one has multiple parts. It's a scale model construction. So again, you have some sort of prompt up here at the top where there might be some relevant numbers. There might be information that's useful. You might also see some numbers here that are kind of in what looks like, some sort of orangish red color. That means that this number is a randomized variable. That means that the number you're seeing is not going to be the same number your friend sees, or that your neighbor in the class sees. The randomized variables are randomized for every student. Numbers like this are going to be then the same for every student. So so this just gives a little bit of accountability and allows for some variation, so that if you do get help, I have nothing against people working together or talking about these things, but the randomized numbers, allows you to make sure kind of why you're doing what you're doing versus just typing in numbers. For this class, again, this is kind of written for, physics, chemistry, most of the STEM fields. So the interface, in this case, it wants you to enter a number, right? It's not multiple choice. It wants you to actually enter a number. So you would do your calculation, and then you would kind of type in the number you think is your answer. You can also type it in just using the punch pad, scientific notation if you need it. And that's probably going to be all we need for this class. The trig functions and logarithms and all that stuff. It's probably very unlikely we'll ever use any of that. But it's there because, again, this is not just for intro astronomy. In terms of the numbers you put in when you're doing these calculations, it does have a tolerance that allows. So I'm not going to care about things like sig figs or anything like that. So when you do a calculation, keep a few decimal spots and you'll be fine. Just don't round, grossly round, unless it asks you to or something. So notice in this case, where it's not multiple choice, it says 10 submissions remaining. So you can try, up to 10 times. I think I will actually make that 15. There are hints, so you can access hints, but they come at a cost. Feedback, there might be feedback depending on what your answer is, which is nice because sometimes with these calculation problems, it can actually realize the mistakes you're making, like, oh, you forgot a minus sign, or ooh, you're subtracting the exponents where you might try adding or something. So when you have all these possibilities, each possibility comes at a very small cost. So seems like I have it set to 4%, and I'll probably change that to 3%, with 15 possible opportunities, which means, one mistake, who cares? You lose 3% on one problem. If you're trying multiple possibilities, if you put multiple answers in and you keep getting it wrong, then maybe that's a great question for office hours. So that's sort of what you'll also see for these calculation problems. For these multiple parts, notice how you have part A, part B, part B, part C, and D. You do not necessarily have to do them in order, though some problems will rely on previous parts. Like I think this one, I think you need to do them in order, or else you don't have enough information. But you can go out of order and answer them, out of order as well. So, then let me not do that one. Let me find another multi-part one. That's easy for me to answer. What you should see is that when you're doing multi-part questions, I'll just answer this course syllabus one. Course structure is true. That one. So submit, correct. Notice up here now it says that one is partially completed. So it kind of lets you know kind of where you stand with everything. All you have to do by the time it's due is make sure everything just says complete. If it does not, then everything you have completed is still submitted. So you still get credit for all the problems you completed. But the thing to take into account here is that there's no formal submit button or anything like that, to say that you've completed the entire assignment. So you can, if you accidentally open up an old assignment and change one of your answers, 2 weeks from now, it will think that you're still trying to work on the homework assignment and mark you as incredibly late. So just be careful on that regard. But again, I think kind of after that 4-day grace period after the due date, then it doesn't allow you to do that. So you don't accidentally screw yourself. So that shouldn't be too much of a problem, but just something to keep in mind. Some other sorts of problems you see, these kind of concept maps or sort ones where you kind of click and drag kind of things you think that make sense. And when you think it's done, you hit submit. And then this is one where it will actually ask you to do something on Canvas. So essentially you're going to make a scale model using toilet paper of the solar system. And it's just going to ask you to take a picture. You can't upload files on ExpertTA. So I was just going to say that, go look for this particular assignment in the modules and upload the photo you take. So you just have to kind of do it and then upload the photo. This has these essay sort of questions where you can type your answers out. Obviously, it's not going to be able to grade your answer on the spot. And the numbers here are never going to make sense. So essentially, I can hit submit, and that saves my work for the essay, and I can move on. But I can come back and change my answer, hit submit again. I can come back, change my answer, hit submit again. I can do it as many times as I want. Essentially, for these essay questions, you can hit submit as many times as you want. So think of submit kind of like a save for the essay questions. And I won't use essay questions that often, but something to keep in mind for those. And then after the assignment is due, I'll go through and manually look at all the answers and assign a number. I think that's more or less it. That'll give you a sense of kind of what's going on. Some of these questions I wrote myself, and I kind of worked in prompts to help you kind of learn the interface. Like number 1, part C, I kind of walk you through kind of, you know, what's going on. I talk about randomized variables. I talk about how to use this thing. So there should be a lot of scaffolding in this particular homework 1 to help you get a sense of what's going on. And again, if something's confusing, you can always ask. And remember, you can leave and come back as many times as you want. Just make sure after this particular due date, you don't start changing your answers. And I believe when you do this kind of drop down, that this kind of view assignment solutions or something like that will appear eventually. Once that kind of grace period has ended, everyone should be able to access solutions. I guess I'll say one more thing, though I don't know why you would ever do this, because I will give everyone the solutions eventually. But you could, for example, say like you're working on this particular problem, you have absolutely no idea, and you just say, screw it. You could give up, which of course giving up means that you will get 0 points for the question, but it does allow you to see the solution immediately after. Again, I don't know why you necessarily need to do that, you know, given that I will let everyone see the solutions a couple days after it's due anyway. So might as well just try to earn some points. All right. And then again, yeah, there's no formal submit, right? Just kind of whatever you have once it becomes due is what gets submitted. And the scores should hopefully auto-populate to Canvas, else the TAs will take care of that. All right, that's it.